Yo, it's your boy Logos, and I want to react to this Destiny clip because I think the topic of race and racial dynamics needs to be discussed within an intelligent, honest, and mature manner, especially in the West. It's one of many things, if you ask me, that is hurting our current society, whether it's economically, politically, or any other way you want to look about it. And if you ask me personally, I love the West, I love our culture, regardless of its faults. And me as a black man, regardless of history or anything else you want to put out of your ass, don't want to see this country, the United States, or any country burn down because of racial dynamics. That's just me personally. I met and talked to people that see differently. I never understood that. And sadly nowadays, we really can't have these type of conversations. We kind of used to comedians like Patrice O'Neal or even Bill Burr. He would get into this type of stuff. Dave Chappelle, they would do this stuff, but outside of comedians, it's not really being discussed. Either people are too addicted to ideology where they just believe race controls everything, everybody's racist, or somebody's a victim, or you have the other side where they're just too afraid to have an honest conversation about this stuff because it's going to be perceived as racist. Luckily for me, I'm black, so I don't know how to be racist towards my own people. And also, I'm don't really fall between a Democrat or a Republican. I'm more in the middle, and I don't align myself to parties. I think it's pretty useless. I don't align myself to a particular group or wide range of group politically or anything else like that. So, at least for my knowledge and my awareness, which isn't perfect, I don't fit within those two categories. So when we add to this, get my own perspective and opinion, which is very limited. I'm only one person, my experience, my perspective. But regardless, hopefully I can contribute to this conversation, get my own background, my own view, and it's worthwhile. So, so please let me know. But let's get into it.
Say you're racist. It's a character flaw. I'm bad. I know I'm not bad. I think I'm a good person. I think I'm a nice person. And I know that I am racist. And I know that I'm racist because I, every single day, uphold the systems and the structures of racism. And if we don't start having a conversation about that...
Yeah, and then I feel like we need other, words too. Like, you're racist because you uphold this. Like, come on. Like, we're getting, like, it's like 7 levels of abstraction away from, like, what is racism?
It's a fun thing. I hear, like, that type of speech often before, whether it's online or through other crazy, means of people having these type of conversations. And I always want to ask, how do you just live your everyday life uphold systems of racism? Are you stopping people from, saying what they want on the bus? Are you trying to install like, segregated bathrooms? Are you trying to bring all that stuff back? I really don't understand how, what are you doing by just living your life? If you ask me, as long as you're not a piece of shit, you're pretty much gonna be, I don't know, good with everybody. If you're a racist, if you're a sexist, or if you're any of these isms, you're a piece of shit. So if you just be a decent human being, you're not gonna be racist, you're not gonna be sexist, you're not gonna be, I don't know, dominating, abusive, any of these, horrible traits or characteristics. And I don't think that's a really hard thing to do. Also, to be honest with you, if I was white, which I'm not, I wouldn't be calling myself a racist just because I'm white. I wouldn't be saying uphold evil acts, evil structures, evil societies because I'm white. But not just living my life. I think it's crazy to tell a kid or a grown adult just because of the color of your skin, you're racist. Just the same way it's crazy to tell a black person or any person because of the color of their skin, they're inferior. I don't understand how doing the opposite that makes it okay. It's equally terrible and equally stupid if you ask me.
Racism is when I have horrible thoughts about certain people. It's like, okay. Or like racism is when I do bad things to people. Okay, well, what's like one level with that? Well, it's just when I have bad thoughts about people. Well, what's one level away from that? What's when I'm in a group that has bad thoughts about people? What's one level away from that? Okay, well, if I vote for somebody that's like, what's like another level of, okay, well, when I go to work and I buy things, I'm probably buying it from a white business owner who probably has inherited some level of generational wealth. And then I walk down the street and then I pay rent in my house that's also probably owned by, and so this is me upholding white supremacy. Like, bro, like nobody thinks like this. It's
only people who are so brainwashed, and honestly, it sounds like a very sad, pathetic life, but they live like that and think like that. Can't imagine just going through life every single day and seeing stuff you want to complain about and uphold and believe it's because of your skin color. Somehow, some way, even though you don't know that person who did something bad or tied to a particular evil historical event, you'll somehow blame. Like, you didn't ask to be born within that life, within that body, that skin color. It just happened that way. So if you was born into a rich family, you just got the luck of the draw, if you ask me. So you're not a bad person. You're not automatically racist. You're not upholding white supremacy or anything like that. You just got to roll the dice in your favor. If you have a house, you worked hard to get it, or it was passed down to you because your parents or somebody else in your lineage worked hard and earned it most of the time. I'm not just going to assume somebody's racist or I did this or I stole this from somebody else. Plus, I can't change the past. I can't change history. I can only focus on the present. And if my current actions aren't racist, aren't abusive, aren't harmful, fine. I'm a good person. At least that's how I see it.
It's like, find new words. It's not effective. You're not communicating effectively, okay? Also, if you work in academia, okay? If you work in academia, we figured this out for STEM kids. We figured this out, okay? In the like early 2010s, the big meme was that like if you work in STEM, okay, you don't have to worry about being able to write or any of that shit. Just learn how to program and you'll be set, because being able to communicate. And we finally learned that like, okay, maybe knowing how to write an email and not coming off as like having like terminal stage 5 autism is actually a benefit to your entire life. You can be a little bit more well-rounded, okay? Time for academics to follow suit. If your goal is something related to sociology, and you're fundamentally talking about how people like intersect with each other or engage in society, you should be able to communicate your ideas to them. Figure it out, okay? Learn how, like you coming on to a fucking panel and being like, oh, well, you understand that all of you are actually white supremacists because you engage in behavior unintentionally that upholds the structures in society that have been put in place 100 years. Like, bro, you sound like a guy that is like brought on to like explain like, oh, well, today I'm going to teach a home full of senior citizens, you know, how to install a program on their computer. And it's like, okay, well, everybody open like fucking, fuck, I was gonna make a joke. Is it called V or Vi, right? Like everybody open V or whatever. Like we're gonna like, let's start. You're working at such a level that nobody's gonna be able to figure out, oh, Vim, figure out how to communicate to people in ways that they can understand it. Otherwise your ideas will only ever remain within the domain of academia, right? And nobody's gonna care about what you have to say.
America didn't start that way for black people. They didn't immigrate here. They were living somewhere else and they were kidnapped and murdered and taken here. And so for you to just say,
Of course, there were certain people who, were kidnapped and, such and so forth and stolen, but a good chunk were, traded by, African kings, African people for weapons, supplies, all types of stuff. And if you just think about it, it made sense. Like, not slavery making sense. It made sense that you were, as an explorer, as a European explorer, instead of going into the depth of Africa that you're not familiar with, your body isn't acclimated with, whether it be the weather, the wildlife, the disease, all that type of stuff. Instead of doing that yourself, you can just meet somebody that would represent the king or talk to the king itself in a more safer place that you can control and just make a trade. Why would you risk sending the army or sending people out there to, kidnap people individually as slaves compared to, making a deal with a person that's willing to sell slaves to begin with? A society, a kingdom that's always practicing slavery, who got slaves from war and conquest, which has been happening since the beginning of time. Whether you're a Greek or you're talking about ancient Rome, or you're talking about ancient Assyrians, Babylonians, Egyptians, all these different people took on slaves against the people they conquered. That doesn't make it a good thing. That's just a human thing. When you care more about strength and might mates right, it doesn't matter about morals or manners or law, society. There wasn't no international community. Internationally, probably wouldn't even know something happened. Dude, internationally, all the other countries that could possibly stop you probably had slaves themselves. Like, come on. They probably want some of your slaves. So, and I like Jon Stewart. I used to watch The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, especially when I was younger and I was much more liberal and Democrat. But just saying that and not mentioning, the actual trade and stuff that was happening, it just seems very phony. Maybe I'm just nitpicking, but I really don't think so. People like to focus or ignore the whole trading part of slaves because it doesn't fit within the narrative. They want to change history because it makes them uncomfortable. And they want to write a narrative or push a narrative and saying that slaves weren't actually, all kidnapped or whatever. They was actually traded by other Africans. Doesn't fit within their paradigm or their mindset. And they're very disingenuous. I don't appreciate them.
Hey, this is a magnificent place.
Wait, okay, but this is another thing too. Like, you can't. Slavery was bad, okay? I will say that. I'm going to come out and take a strong stance on this. I'm going to say, I think slavery was bad, okay?
Well, you need to calm down. That's a very radical statement. And I really think you need to pull back, talk to your PR team, maybe reach out to your manager and clear that up to see if that's something you could truly say nowadays. Because I don't know if something like that would fly through Twitter or go under the radar. Really radical.
But every single conversation that we have today can't be held hostage by things that happened hundreds of years ago. We can't do that. That's not a way to move forward in conversations. And you're not gonna be able to beat people over the head with that over and over and over again and expect that they're gonna see the same point of view as you.
That doesn't have racism is actually, I think, more of a foundational lie than anything else.
I think the bigger problem is that systemic racism is the worst lens to try to have these discussions. The entire lexicon is toxic as fuck. I think that systemic racism is fine. I think it's good to use that as a tool to understand how some things can work in society, but it can't be the only thing, right? Like, the understanding systemic racism is like 5 to 10% of you putting together some view of society, but these people act like it's 95%.
Exactly. And all it is taking very often, Marx's view with, class struggle and just transferring that ideology over to the rest. It's something that is much more compatible. Of course, you have class, issues, but it's nowhere near the same as it was, in Russia and other places where communism focused on, the working class. Over here, that's especially not going to fly because, capitalism and how much capitalism is entrenched with American values. But if you can go at the same type of Marxist them against us mentality using race and using that history of racism and slavery against that country, you see how that easily fits and it works. And I'm not a genius, of course not just for coming up with this, but I didn't even come up with this. Listening to Jordan Peterson and other people talk about these type of topics, it opened my eyes to it. And then as I just listened to history, just for the sake of it, not because I want to learn more about the Marxist stuff, but because I care about World War II and the people involved in it, and try to understand that history and that war, it connects the dots. Excuse me. So it's just very, very disingenuous because these people really don't care about fixing racism or fixing problems within America or the rest. They just care about power. And if you really think, I agree with Destiny 100%. If you really think racism is a core issue of all American issues or Western issues within society, economically, all this other stuff, you're delusional. There are many things that is the issue. Places where they don't have this type of, problem when it comes to race, they still have their own issues. In Africa, they have, civil wars. We all know about the Rwanda genocide just because of people, I think their earlobes or their noses, something on their face. I'm pretty sure it was the ear, but they looked differently. And they were just being absolutely barbaric to each other. Regardless of their skin color, it was about culture and how you looked. And they were all African. Things are much deeper when it comes to issues beyond race. So, all right, I 100% agree with Destiny. Fortunately, people don't see that nowadays, but luckily we have some people willing to call it out. So, good on Destiny.
Right? Like you'll find like a crackhead on the street or some shit, and people look and be like, systemic racism, that's why. Or some black dude will murder a black woman in like a toxic relationship. They're like, oh, systemic racism, that's why. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's just people. Yeah, it's a good tool to view like parts of society or to view all.
People use that for slavery too. I forgot it was last year or the year before, but I heard somebody talk about like trauma from slavery is still going on today. I'm like, what the? Like she literally said we have like inherent trauma, deep trauma that was passed down generations because of slavery. She even tried to make an argument about, economically because, slaves couldn't read or write or have skills, and that got passed down, so you couldn't get access to education, high paying jobs, high skilled jobs, all that type of stuff, Jim Crow laws. She was just talking about slavery and the effects of slavery going down to your DNA and people today are being affected by that. And I think that's straight up bullshit. So yeah, Destiny is right. There are certain people, not everybody of course, but there are a good majority of people that will use systemic racism or racism in general to make excuses for stuff. Even when it's black people or any, not even black people, but most of the time this is discussion, black and white people. But even when black people, a black person harms or steals or kills another black person, it can never be their fault. It's always somebody else's fault. It's economics. It's never the actual person, nor is it either black culture, whether it's related to gangs and the music and all the other stuff.
All of society, you can like look at, you can use different tools to like look at different things in society, but you can't pretend that it explains everything. It's
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
You said that it's the most hyperbole
that exist. I said the term white supremacy is an absurd hyperbole. For most people, that means the KKK.
This is true too. This is where you're getting now you're seeing like how the academic world connects to the real world, right? Could you argue academically that America is a white supremacist country? I mean, like, yeah, I can walk you through it, but like the argument being that the United States was founded primarily by by white European immigrants that brought over slaves, that brought over Chinese people, that brought over other groups of people to work in the United States, that because processes like political processes, generational wealth, the ownership of businesses, the where real estate is set up, gentrification, redlining, all of these things have contributed to a culture where white people tend to have an advantage over other people. And anytime you participate in any of these systems, implicitly or explicitly, you are in a sense like endorsing the yeah, we can get there and say,
I don't think it. Well, of course, that's not what Destiny's saying. But people who do believe that, I don't think you're endorsing the white supremacy or the history, the racist history of America by, living your life and taking advantage of the modern comforts, necessities, all the other things that make you enjoy your life. I don't think you're upholding white supremacy. I think that's pretty crazy, if you ask me. And me, does that include like myself as a black man too? Other black people, are we upholding white supremacy by, just living our life, taking advantage of our freedom, taking advantage of our rights, our opportunities, all this other stuff? Or should I just focus on my time on the past and trying to right or wrong that I see? I don't get it. I don't believe in that stuff. And I made that clear throughout many videos. I rather just appreciate the life that I have now, while still calling out the bullshit politically, but still, I'm not focusing on the past to mess up my current, present, or future.
Sure, but like that, that definition is so unbelievably academic. And when you say white supremacists, people think of motherfuckers burning black people in front yards. That's what white supremacist is to like a normal person. Oh, white supremacists? Where's the hooded cloaks at? Like this is what people are thinking of. So when you use these words like this, you're not invoking truthfully like what people should be thinking about, which is a pretty dry, highly abstracted view of like how society is organized.
Quite honestly, if white men were...
Well, that goes back to what I saw from Jordan Peterson. We were talking about hierarchies, and that's related to the Marxist ideology, where it's not about competence or how good you are. As much as they say they want everything to be equal, they're not focused on the best person getting the job. It's more about, or it's not focused on the reason why that person has that position is because they're the best person for the job. They're the most competent. No, it's because of racism or some type of ism, and because of hierarchies and holding people down. And it's a very limited mind view, if you ask me, or mindset.
Going to do something about racism, you had 400 years. You could have done it.
Okay, but like, I'm not saying that we should get credit for it, but we have, it's better now than it used to be. We did end slavery, okay? Jim Crow ended, like we're taking steps, okay? I mean, you can't pretend that where we're at today is the same place we were at in the fucking 1700s.
Exactly.
So I'm shutting you down right now.
I am not responsible for anyone before me.
The point is, I'm so tired of just engaging this.
It's so cute saying I'm shutting you down right now. You saw she try to do that bullshit, but hell no, if you try to, nope, you ain't gonna do me like that. Because if I try that with her, hey, listen, lady, shut up. I'm not done talking yet. You're like, ooh, how could you say that? Oh my god. they'll try to mute his mic, they'll mute my mic. No, do not try to play this BS game, try to score points, or try to, one up me because you don't like the stuff that I'm saying. Don't. Please don't do that. I hate that shit. It's very childish.
This conversation and this deep hurt that Andrew has about talking about racism, and Chip, God bless you, but I'm gonna put everybody in the thing.
Nobody has a deep hurt. This is so much.
All of us white
There's so much pander, and me personally, comes out very weird. It comes out it makes me a little bit uncomfortable, the level of blatant pandering. Like, dick riding, like, and not in a good way. Because she just going off about making assumptions about these men, saying how they're involved, they're at fault, they have deep-rooted issues, trying to shut him down and score a point, like I just said. And I don't see what she's doing as being the ally, or being strong or tough or hard or fighting a good fight. I'm just like, really? If I want to have a discussion about this stuff, I can have the discussion myself. It's very weird too. How many of these people talking about, they claim they want to be an ally, whatever, I hate using that word, because usually people that say that believe in some weird shit like this type of stuff. Either way, they claim to be an ally, but they'll, move up into the front. They'll take the microphone. They want to speak for everybody of the race that they think is troubled or downtrodden and all this other stuff. And I find that also very, very weird. I can speak for myself, and I always want to, because 9 times out of 10, well, I would say 9 times out of 10, but there's a good chance that I'm going to disagree with whatever that person says. Because I think for myself, I have my own view on things. And just because you look like me or don't look like me doesn't mean we're going to agree or disagree.
people do this. I don't care if we say we're abolitionists. I don't care if we say we're progressive. I don't care if we're literally members of the KKK. Every single white person upholds these systems and structures of white supremacy.
And see, there's like this is the issue too. This is why I don't like.
My next question to her, if I was, Jon Stewart in a scenario, okay, tell me how. Can you make a list or just list off ways just by raking up, going to work, taking care of my family, living a life, I'm upholding white supremacy? Tell me how. Because I really need to understand what's her way of thinking. I understand what Destiny said, and that makes sense if that's what you believe in. Even though I don't completely, agree. Even though I agree and disagree, because you can make an argument, a good argument, slavery, education, skills, jobs, pass down wealth, etc., etc. Then you have stuff like, the Tulsa, Black Wall Street. That stuff makes sense. But tell me, just because you live a life and you're right living your life, that you're all these different categories, or you're a bad person, or you're pro white supremacy, which does sound like something related to the KKK, not just, society and living your life. You sound pretty crazy to me. So I need a list. I want a list. And we can go through each part of your list one by one.
Like the academic definitions is because one of the reasons why people don't like academic definitions for white supremacy or academic definitions for racism is because it removes a lot of the intention behind what most people think that racism is. When somebody says you're racist, the reason why it evokes such a strong negative idea in the listener's mind is because racism is generally something that people think of as intentional. You hate this group of people. You do things intentionally to hurt this group of people. Not just you happen to exist in a society that might have fucked them over at some point in time and maybe still perpetuate some of those inequalities. And I can have a dry academic conversation with somebody. We can agree like what white supremacy, but then the problem,
like, if you ask me, just about every single country on this earth have citizens where at some point in time their ancestors was downtrodden, abused, maybe enslaved by that government that used to be in that same region. So what I'm trying to say is, for example, like the Romans. Before there was Romans, everywhere throughout Italy, there was the Etruscans, there was the Samnites, etc., etc. They conquered those people, and from there they grown their empire, and then conquered France, Spain, parts of Africa. We all know how Rome went. If you're a descendant of those people that was conquered, should you be mad at Italian people? If if your family, like, but it's the thing though, when history goes back this far, it's impossible to know, so nobody really gives a damn enough. You really can't connect the dots. Part of the reason why these discussions can keep going on because slavery is much more new, and it's the Civil War is recent enough where we have, pictures of, like, I think Gettysburg and other battles, not to mention Jim Crow and all this stuff that followed up after slavery. So I can understand how it's a little bit different, but my whole point is, just because at one point a nation or a government did something bad doesn't mean a person in the modern day should feel guilt over what that government did. For example, Turkey. The country of Turkey used to be called the Ottoman Empire. There was a genocide, the Armenian genocide, during, I think, World War One. Yeah, World War One. Pretty sure it was like right in the middle of the war while it was happening. At least from my memory. I could be wrong on that. It's been a while since I've gotten to World War One lately. But people of Turkey, a modern day person that is Turkish, you should feel no guilt over the Armenian genocide. If you have one thing, I think you should have an opinion on is if your government still trying to deny it when there's clear evidence. I think that's wrong. But you just live your life as a Turkish person, you shouldn't feel guilt over the Armenian genocide. The people who should are the people who did it, but they're long dead. So having this animosity against Turkish people in general, if you're Armenian, it just doesn't make sense to me. The same way for me to have this animosity or hatred of white people or slavery, this doesn't make sense to me. If you're racist to me or you're a piece of shit, that's different. I'll be mad at that individual, not your race, not your entire skin color, or any person that looks like your skin color. It's pretty stupid, but pretty sure I did a terrible job explaining that, but that's where I'm coming from on it.
Problem is, now look at what she's done. Now she's taken that structural or systemic racism, and now she's tied it to people that are.
I see the fire in the eyes. She ready to talk to you about how you are a terrible person. She is strong and she is full of conviction. Look at that face.
Actually racist, right? Now you've gone from like, oh, well, I don't care if you're talking about systemic racism, like you happen to be somebody that participates in the legal system, or if you're a KKK member, like, okay, well, hold on, Emily, okay? Calm the fuck down. These are two very different types of racism now that you've just managed to equate, and now it makes me wonder if you believe in the academic definition at all.
They're literally members of the KKK. Every single white person upholds these systems and structures of white supremacy, and we have got to talk about it.
Oh, so stupid. Why are y'all clapping and cheering like a bunch of dumbass drones? Okay, every person who clapped their dumbass hands, I just want to ask you, with a microphone, individually, so don't go anywhere, motherfucker. I'm going to ask each and every one of you, how do you uphold slavery or white supremacy? Tell me how. And tell me whether or not you have heard of this or believed in this stuff before you heard this big-ass woman talk this bullshit out of her mouth. Tell me. Tell me how you, just being a white person, living your life, is holding me back right now as we speak. Meanwhile, don't forget, I have the power and the freedom and the right to talk to you like I am now. What's the word? Not demand, but and almost, yeah, basically demand an answer. Like, and I don't have any fear about getting lynched, killed, shot, stabbed, ran over, or anything else that's happened previously in America or throughout the rest or any other country on this planet. Explain that to me. Tell me how it's the same thing. Tell me how you're somehow, some way, even close to the KKK. And tell me why I'm so comfortable enough to have this conversation with you about your KKK, your hidden KKK beliefs, ideals, and, I don't know, work ethic, upholding of the structure. Tell me how I'm so free to talk to you about this stuff while this stuff is true. The stuff that you just cheered on, clapped, and just woo like a dumbass about. Tell me. Because that's what we need to do, man. This is why you shouldn't be banning people that believe this stuff. You need to really question them. Ask them why it made sense. Because eventually, through questioning, they're going to figure out, oh, that makes absolutely no fucking sense. I was kind of dumb to believe it. And there's no reason, there's nothing wrong at all for believing something and getting more information and finding out and deciding and accepting that what you previously believed wasn't true. Nobody's perfect. We're all human. So that's why I want to have these conversations. You shouldn't be banning these people. Highlight them. Have a conversation. Make them talk about why they believe what they believe.
Like, we've been talking about it for fucking years. Like, it's time to stop talking about it and fucking do something, liberals, okay? Stop destroying your fucking cities, okay? Yep. Zone more fucking houses, all right? Do something about the war on drugs, fucking do something, right? We've talked about this until we're blue in the face. What are the policies that we're gonna do now to improve things? How are we gonna make things better, right? Win some goddamn elections.
If I could finger snap, I would finger snap right now.
You wouldn't even know where he would change if you could finger snap. Like, okay, if you finger, come on, I got so many freaking questions. If your dumbass finger snap, and I like Jon Stewart, depending on the topic he's saying or a topic he's speaking about. But if you just snapped your fingers right now, like you said, you wish you could, what would change? How would it change? And what would be the results? Like I said, it sounds like a whole bunch of beat rotting. It sounds like a whole bunch of, forgot what I said initially. But you know, just trying so hard to make it seem like you're not racist or a bad person, and you're just going into absurdity land. It makes no sense. You're trying too hard. At least for me. This is just my opinion, of course.
You think it's nothing about calling me a racist, Sean?
You've been doing a pretty good job with it yourself there. So
Not even close, though. Like, dude,
been doing it now. Let's remove it
from the calling me a racist, Sean.
You've been doing a pretty good job with it yourself there. So let's remove it from the calling me a racist, Sean. You've been doing a pretty good job with it yourself there. So
Not even close, though. Like, dude, this is like the most white liberal shit in the world. Exactly. Oh my god, it's so pain. Where is fucking ABBA at? It's like so fucking cringe that all these people are like, yeah, bro, he's so racist. Like, high five. Like, all the white people are like high fiving themselves.
Like a bunch of dumbass, goofy CEOs just high fiving. I'm horrible. I'm terrible. How? Shit, I don't know. But yeah, I'm fucking awful. My homeboy, my bro, he told me about Abba's and Destiny's conversations. If I could find some clips of that, I'll definitely react to it. Or if you know some good conversations, please put the link in the comments, and I'll definitely check it out and do a video on it. Because these people are just clapping like dumbass seals. So I'm glad I was able to come in and I guess provide the role that I assume Abba does when he's on this stream.
Much they hate their skin color. Like, bro, shit, like fucking 60% of Americans would probably agree with this dude. Like, Jesus Christ.
It's pretty weird, man. I'm not white. If I could choose like my skin color in the next life, I'll still choose to be black because that's what I know. It's not a big deal. Like, but even still, man, I don't get it. I don't get the idea of hating yourself, telling the world that you're horrible, believing you're horrible, just for living your life. You could be a genuinely good person. You're nice, you're kind, you're not racist, but you're white, so you're racist. Why does that make sense to you? If it was flipped about black people and being horrible, everybody knows that's wrong. You're arguing that it's wrong, but or at least you're on the side that it's wrong, clearly, with the way you just, oh yeah, virtue signaling. I don't know how, I forgot that word. With how much I've said it in the past, I really haven't said it recently or, lately, but that's what they're doing, virtue signaling. And it's pretty damn pathetic. I don't like it, pretty weird, find it uncomfortable, but once again, not surprising. These freaks, they just feel the need to prove how not racist they are. And like I said, all you gotta do is just be a decent person. Don't, hold your purse tight when a black person, just a random black person walks by. Now, if it's like a crazy looking dude that look like he's like strung out on drugs or he's homeless and he's looking at you crazy as he walk up to you, yeah, clutch your purse because he look dangerous. If he's black, white, Spanish, Asian, I don't give a fuck. He looks crazy as hell. I don't be standoffish with him too. And I could defend myself better than you could. That's not racist. You're just defending yourself or getting ready for a possible threat because he's acting crazy, because he's black. Oh man, these conversations, like I said, man, it's hard to actually get to a good place with this type of stuff so we don't have all this type of fighting and hatred. We have just freaks, weirdos, hate these people. But I don't hate these people because I don't know them. I hate these type of people because you can't have a genuine conversation. You can't progress. You can't do better. You can't admit progress. Like, part of the good thing about progress is seeing where you used to be. But if you want to act like everything is just so terrible and awful and things aren't better, like how could you possibly improve or see the good things that you did to improve to build on it in the future? Like I said, these people make no sense. And if I was right, I damn sure wouldn't be talking like them. Just be a decent person. Don't be a piece of shit. Try to have compassion, empathy for people that deserve it, or for strangers where it's reasonable, just sensible. And that's all you gotta do if you ask me. You don't have to virtue signal. You don't have to be weird. You don't have to prove yourself to me. Because look, listen, man, I don't give a fuck how much you virtue signal. 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna just look at you, nod, and keep going. Because I'm not even that big of a people person. Don't give a shit how much you figuratively ride my dick. Nothing's gonna change with my interaction with you. As long as you're respectful and not weird. These people, let me know what you think. If you have clips, anything related to Abba and Destiny, or anything related to this conversation or video, put in the comments. I'll check it out. Like, share, and subscribe. It's your boy Logos, and I'll see you next time. Peace.